Hello, everyone, and happy Raptors playoff day. I hope everyone is doing well, and I'm here to bring you my thoughts on the Raptors versus Philadelphia 76ers series. One that I think poses a very interesting matchup, and just kind of what we can expect over the course of the playoffs from the Toronto Raptors. This podcast, by no means, is a professional podcast. I'm just kind of giving my thoughts and opinions here. This podcast is for, regardless if you're a diehard fan, a casual, or if this is your going to be your first time watching the Raptors. This is just going to be an uncut, short little video giving my thoughts on the Raptors heading into the playoffs and what we can expect from them. So I have a couple of things that I wanted to just go off of here. I'm not a huge stats guy. I'm a big believer in the eye test, and just, kind of giving my thoughts and opinions from there. But stats do mean a little bit of something. So I have the important ones up that I think should tell you a good amount of the story here. The first thing I want to look at is matchups for the Raptors versus Philadelphia. Obviously, I think a lot of our friends down south of the border have not seen our team play a lot, mainly just the four times that we've played them this season. The big question going into the series is Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid historically has not been his normal self against the Raptors, regardless if that was with Marc Gasol or even just in years prior to that. A big question is who is going to guard him because he does pose a very threatening mismatch for the Toronto Raptors, depending that they don't have a legitimate center. However, I do think that Nick Nurse has given me no reason to believe that he does not have a way to figure it out. He's done it multiple times, obviously, in that 2019 championship run against Philadelphia again, Milwaukee, and Golden State. Nick Nurse is one of the best coaches in the NBA. He won Coach of the Year for a reason. He's given me no reason to doubt what he's able to do from a coaching standpoint. So, however, in saying that, I do think Embiid is going to be a handful. He's going to see a lot of bodies, a lot of different bodies, also at the same time, trying to get the ball out of his hands a lot. However, I think another interesting topic here is yes, the Raptors may not have one specific guy that can guard Joel Embiid. I do think the same question can be said about Pascal Siakam going up against Philadelphia. Pascal has been playing at an all NBA level all season, as you can see here. The numbers, I mean, they don't lie. He's averaging almost 23 points, 8.5 rebounds, just over 5 assists. He's been playing at a unbelievable level, that All Star, All NBA caliber level. I don't see anyone on Philadelphia really being able to handle him that well. Tyrese Maxey's not able to play in Toronto. Even when he is able to play in Philadelphia, I'm not sure just him alone is enough to guard Pascal. I think Pascal is going to see a lot of bodies, potentially Tobias Harris, obviously Thybulle, Danny Green. So it'll definitely be interesting. But yeah, Embiid. I mean, Embiid has been arguably the MVP this season. I don't think anyone's doubting his caliber. He's obviously an unbelievable basketball player, and it's just unfortunate that he plays center, which is the one position that the Raptors don't have a lot of depth in terms of defending or just in general. But then that also kind of brings me to my next point that I wanted to talk about. With Embiid and Pascal seeing a lot of different matchups and a lot of different bodies, they're going to want to get the ball out of their hands. The supporting cast is going to be huge in this series, I think. The benches, in specific, the Raptors have been pretty lackluster off the bench. Precious Achua has definitely came into his own since the All Star break, and he's been playing at a great level. I was not too crazy on him in the beginning of the season, but he's definitely made me eat my words a little bit here. Chris Boucher. He's a big energy guy off the bench. I don't think anybody's expecting him to really, come off the bench and put up crazy numbers. But can he come off the bench and rebound and hustle and, make high IQ defensive plays? A lot of the time you see him, biting on pump fakes and, can he stay on his feet and use his length to his advantage? The same can be said with Philadelphia. Not really too many options off the bench. They do have a couple guys like Georges Niang for some reason always plays good against the Toronto Raptors. Shake Milton is very hit or miss, and same with Korkmaz. But is Tyrese Maxey ready to be that solidified third option on a team that's supposed to make a deep playoff run? Can Danny Green roll back the clock a little bit and play that elite 3-and-D basketball that he typically plays? Can James Harden, finally exercise his demons a little bit and, prove a lot of people wrong? Tobias Harris is another one where I think he's a very good player. However, he's a little inconsistent for me. Obviously, you can see his numbers. He puts up great numbers, but I don't know. I think there's still a lot of question marks with this team with Philadelphia. Same can be said about the Toronto Raptors. Um, Another, I think, an X factor for this Toronto Raptors team is going to be Gary Trent Jr. We've seen him this season; he's been very good. However, what version of him are we going to see? There's been a stretch of games where he's been putting up 30, 40 points over 5 or 6 games, and then there's also been some games where he's not even cracking 10. So I think his shot making and shot creating ability is going to be extremely important in this series. If he can step up and be, a third or fourth option on this team, then I don't see why the Toronto Raptors cannot come away with the win in the series. Same thing can be said about OG. OG's missed a lot of time this season with injuries, but prior to that, he was, putting up close to 20 points prior to his injury. Now putting up 17, 5, and 2. Those are very good numbers from a third or fourth option on the Raptors. So I think the supporting cast is going to be very, very important. We know what you're going to see out of Embiid and Harden for the most part. You think know what you're going to see out of Pascal and Fred. It's just, can those third, fourth, fifth options, maybe a couple off the bench, can they step up and, help pull their team over the finish line? And then kind of the last point I wanted to talk about, again, I said I wanted to keep this short. I might sound like I'm kind of rambling. I just wanted to give, a couple of my thoughts, pending that we're, almost a little over 3 hours to tip off here. Just kind of want to give my thoughts on the series. I think the Raptors and the Philly series, along with the Brooklyn Nets and the Boston Celtics, I think those two series are the most fascinating and most exciting in the East. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of give my thoughts here. But the last kind of thing I wanted to talk about is, everyone loves to talk about the bubble. People, for some reason, I remember that season, pre-COVID, Pascal was playing at an all-star, NBA level. He still is, but he was a very likable guy. And, people really liked the way he played. COVID happened, this, that. We entered the bubble, and everyone knows the playoffs, what happened there. Spinny P was a shadow of himself in that playoff series, specifically against Boston. The big question is, Pascal ready to be the guy for the Toronto Raptors in the playoffs? And I know a lot of people have kind of been nervous, including myself. What version of Pascal are we going to see? Are we going to see him kind of fold under the pressure again, with him being the number one option on this Raptors team in the playoffs? Or are we going to see that same Pascal that we've seen in the regular season? Pascal, for me, has done nothing but improve year after year that he's been in the NBA. He went from he was going to be a bench guy and then having to start every game for the most part in his first season after Jared Sullinger got injured. And he's done nothing but progress and progress and progress into this all-star that we've seen. Um, Honestly, in my opinion, I think him going through his struggles in the bubble was one of the best things that could have ever happened for him. Um, this might sound cliche, but there's no such thing as winning and losing. There's winning and learning. And Pascal now knows what it's like to be the number one guy on a playoff team. And he wouldn't have experienced that if, he didn't go through what he did in the bubble. I think he's learned from his mistakes. He now knows what he needs to do in order to be successful. And I am expecting to see a completely new Pascal Siakam from what we are accustomed to seeing as him as the number one option in the playoffs. Um, will his numbers maybe drop a little bit from the regular season? I wouldn't be surprised, just with how much of a slugfest, in the words of Nick Nurse, the series is going to be. But I'm expecting a all-star, all-NBA Pascal Siakam to be showing up for this playoff series. So in saying that, this series could go either way. I would not be surprised if the Raptors won in 5, if Philly won in 5, if the Raptors won in 6, if Philly won in 6, if the Raptors won in 7, if Philly won in 7. This series, I think, is a lot closer than a lot of people are anticipating. I think only Toronto Raptor fans or people in Canada understand how good this Raptors team is. It just depends on, kind of like I said, will Gary Trent Jr. be that shot creating two guard that, we all know he can be? Will OG be able to come in and make shots and play elite defense? Will Fred and Pascal be able to step up and, really take the reins of this Raptors team? Will Scotty Barnes, potential, in my opinion, should be rookie of the year. His first playoff series, I'm really excited to see what he has to bring to the table. So versatile. I think he will take a lot of pressure off of Pascal and Fred, because they are going to want to get the ball out of Fred and Pascal's hands. That is for Philly. I think Scotty being kind of that secondary point guard role in this series will pay dividends, and I'm really excited to see him. You see how passionate he is in the regular season, so I can only imagine that the energy is going to be kicked up a notch going into this playoff series. So I think, can we see similar numbers to what he was putting up in the regular season? Can Precious come off the bench and give you 10 or 12 points a game? I think the Raptors have only lost 2 games of the season when Precious scores 10 plus points. So there's a lot of question marks. I think there's a lot of question marks for Philly. There might be a few more for the Raptors, but if things do go their way, I do think the Toronto Raptors can make some noise in this playoffs, especially against Philly. I think if the Raptors do find themselves getting past Philly, I can see them riding that momentum and riding that wave to potentially, beating Miami or Atlanta, whoever comes out of that series. I'm very excited. In 2019, when Kawhi was there, I was not. I was excited because I knew we had the potential to win, but that also made me a little more nervous, right? Because of the expectations. This Raptors team has zero expectations going into this playoffs. They weren't even supposed to be here. No one projected them to be in this position, yet they are the 5 seed, finished 2 games behind Philly. They are 3-1 in the regular season against Philadelphia this year. I'm very excited to watch this. I think it's going to be a very cagey and, again, in the words of Nick Nurse, it's going to be a slugfest. However, in saying that, my heart obviously wants to go Raptors in 6, because, Raps in 6 just feels right. However, I'm going to give my honest opinion here. Call me biased, call me whatever. I would not be making this podcast if I did not think that Toronto Raptors could potentially win this series. If, like I said, those things go right for the Raptors, I think the Raptors can win and beat Philadelphia, knocking them out of the playoffs in 7 games. I don't see a scenario where the Raptors win this series in less than that. potentially 6, but this series is going to be very, very tough. I think Toronto Raptors fans might be a little more confident than they should be, but I also think that the Philadelphia 76ers and their fans might be a little too confident. And I think this Raptors team can take a lot of people by surprise. So I think with all that being said, matchups with Embiid and Pascal and the coaching between Nick Nurse and Doc Rivers, and between the supporting cast and the benches, and Pascal finally taking that leap as the number one option on the Raptors in the playoffs, um, I have the Raptors beating Philadelphia in 7 games. So with that being said, if you guys enjoyed, if you guys learned anything, or agree with me, disagree, whatever it is, please let me know in the comments. I'm always open to suggestions, whether it's what we actually talked about or ways to improve my podcast. Please let me know in the comments or on my socials. And yeah, please let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed this, whether you have watched all 82 games this season or whether this is going to be your first one. I'm always open to comments and suggestions. So thank you guys for taking the time for watching this. This is Sweet Lou 22, and this is me signing off. We the North, and let's go Raptors. Take care.